and welcome to powerful positive PACT time. We've been working on that alliteration all morning and I still said it incorrectly. But we're so glad that so many of you are joining us today. I know there's a lot going on, preparing for holiday breaks, holiday parties. So we really appreciate you all being with us today to talk about really kind of the key to what makes NCFL's partners so successful, and really a lot of our major work. This is Patricia Lovett. I'm a team leader for Family Learning here at the National Center for Families Learning. I work a considerable amount with our grant programs, bringing family learning to communities across the country, particularly through professional development opportunities such as this webinar. And we're really excited this year to be doing kind of monthly webinars to reach more of our partners at many of our sites. As I'm watching here, I see lots of names that are familiar from our Toyota partners, from our expanded partners, from our FACE sites. And we're really excited to see all of you, great friends and partners, joining us today. Prior to coming to NCFL, just a little about my background, I actually was hired here as the English Language Learners Specialist, and that is a lot of my expertise. I've worked with ELL students across the board, from elementary through adults preparing for college. And really love that work and the opportunity to kind of see that in practice in lots of communities across the country with you guys. I have with me today Kathy Miller.
Good morning. As Patricia said, I'm Kathy Miller, and I'm a team leader at NCFL, also working mostly with the FACE programs. So my background, before I came to NCFL, I did a lot of work with family literacy. So, the traditional 4-component family literacy based with preschool classrooms. I also did a lot of work with Head Start. So my focus is family literacy and preschool.
Excellent. So as we said, we're very glad you're with us today. I know that several people have mentioned that they may have to pop out a couple of minutes early. This session is being recorded, and we will send that recording out to those of you who are joining us so that you can review or share with colleagues later. Throughout the time, we will leave you muted just because it is kind of a large crowd, and it's a little easier to manage that way. But if you have questions, we absolutely invite you to type those questions or comments into your questions box, and we'll keep an eye on those and usually answer them verbally as we go through. We'll have a couple minutes for questions at the end, but usually that helps us to kind of contextualize the answers. As I said, I know many of you are familiar with NCFL because we recognize you from partners across the country. But for those who are just familiarizing yourselves with us, I think it's always helpful to understand why it is that we do what we do. The National Center for Families Learning works to eradicate poverty through education solutions for families. And PACT time is a critical part of that mission. There are lots of programs that work with adults. There are lots of programs that work with children, programs that work with parents around how to be stronger supports for their children. But NCFL really strives to help our partners bring families together, and that's really what PACT time is about, and we will dig into that today together. In addition to our place-based programming, those are kind of our intensive 2-generation solutions. NCFL also looks for ways to bring innovative solutions to other community challenges, including going deeper in specific communities with those 2-generation solutions. We have great examples of that right here where we're headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, where the family learning model is slowly moving through the city. Slowly, I guess according to some people, it's moving pretty fast, but we are doing that here in Detroit, and we're really looking to expand even further across the country. We also offer professional development and learning communities, opportunities like this webinar, as well as the Wonderground, for example, which is part of our Wonderopolis website. If you haven't checked out that resource, it's a great place to find out what other educators are doing to help inspire wonder in their learners. We also spend a lot of time researching and translating that research into tools to help your efforts to support literacy and family learning on a national level, as well as kind of bringing that to policymakers through our advocacy efforts. You may notice as you're looking at this map, stars that look close to where you are, and that is in large part because we really are all over. Our partners are in 103 cities and many locations beyond that across the country. We are so happy to have these partners really bringing the work and the tools and the resources that we create to families, as we said, to eradicate poverty. I see a question, is there a directory of NCFL partners? That's a great question, Rosemary. I don't think there's a straightforward directory, but that's certainly something that that I will mention here in the office. We do have kind of lists that correlate to these stars as far as our ability to maintain contact with partners. But I will see if something else exists in the office. In looking at PACT time, I think it's helpful to kind of ground this in what it is that we really do. Many of you work through our traditional family literacy programs, so the theory of change I'm going to show you here may look a little bit different than what you're used to thinking for family literacy, but it should be a pretty similar feeling for you. The idea with the theory of change that underlies family learning, which is really kind of our more recent work, the more recent innovation in two-generation work that we're doing. This theory of change starts where so many of you do, with the parent. You see in the image here a parent who is in the house alone. She's kind of starting to learn for herself. And that's the idea, is that we start with that parent knowing that her or his educational attainment is often directly correlated with what that child's education and attainment and success in life will be. So we start by working with that parent to help build skills, both for personal goal attainment, academics, as well as for becoming a stronger parent for his or her children. And that's whether it is a mom or dad or other caring parenting adult. So through parent time, that parent really builds skills that can be brought to use in PACT time, which we'll talk about today. Parent and child together time is an opportunity for parents and children to engage with each other deliberately around learning. They're learning from each other and with each other. In our family learning model, we have really worked to program to help provide a system for those families as they're engaging in PACT time. They're kind of becoming stronger family units. As that happens, often they look for ways to expand beyond their own family, which is so exciting to see, because often these are the families that you're all working with. They are families in poverty. They are families that are down on their luck, that need support to change the situation of their family. As that support helps them to start kind of looking further out, we have worked with programs to engage those families in family service learning, which really is a type of kind of joint PACT time. Family service learning is a 6-step process that I'm not going to go into here, but we did do a webinar on that that's recorded on our website or our Vimeo channel, as well as there will be another one coming up about going deeper with family service learning, I believe in February. So we won't go into the full process today, but the idea is that families work together to create and implement projects that address challenges in their community, which is an incredibly empowering opportunity for those families. Not only does it benefit those families, but they also tend to engage what we call non-enrolled participants. So others in the community, community leaders, other organizations, neighbors, people in the community who care about the same challenge and want to see a change happen. And this is really what underlies the theory of change. This is where we go beyond making change for one family or multiple families to helping them begin to create the change they want to see in their community. And that compounding change is the real opportunity of family learning. So if you're joining us and you're not working with a family learning program, I'm sure you can tell that I enjoy talking about that. I would absolutely encourage you to reach out and ask if you have any questions about making that happen in your community.
So one of the foundations of the family learning model and thinking forward into service learning is PACT time and the engagement that parents and children have together, because we know that the parents do influence their children more than teachers, than community centers, than other people that they're in contact, no matter how much time that children spend in school or in child care centers during the day. And so we really want to help grow the parents' skills, help give them more tools so that they can better engage their children throughout the different activities they have throughout the day. So PACT time is the time where parents and children can come together in a supportive environment to really dig into some of the skills that parents are learning at parent time. And so they have that supportive environment where the center-based staff or the school staff is there to support and model interactions, and then have that opportunity to talk through those interactions afterwards. So it's a regularly scheduled time coordinated with the program and the school setting, depending on where PACT time is taking place. It can take place in the classroom. It can take place in the community center. It can take place at the school, in the school library, in the cafeteria. It can also take place in the community. It can take place through those family service learning activities to really engage with the community. So PACT time is not limited just to a classroom experience. It's so much more, so many more opportunities that the families can be taking advantage of. And it's time when parents can really implement what they learned in parent time and have that opportunity to see how it works, to try something new, to interact maybe in a slightly new way with their child, and then really talk through what worked, what didn't work with the other parents, so that they're sharing their experiences and they're getting other ideas of way to implement some of those strategies that they're learning. So what PACT time is not is a time just to observe the child. So we don't want families going into a classroom or into a PACT time experience and feeling like they're just observers, that they're just there to see what the children are doing in the classroom, or they're just meant to sit by as the child does sort of project. We want the parents to be active and engaged in the whole process, because it's the interactions between the parent and the child that make PACT time so powerful.
So Kathy, sorry, do you ever find that that's difficult for parents, like at the beginning of a program? Is that difficult for parents to kind of take themselves out of just that observation role?
I think that is very difficult to take them out of that role because parents aren't used to it. They're used to visiting a classroom and just kind of seeing what happens. And so in order to make PACT time really kind of useful and successful for the parents, there's a lot of planning that goes in ahead of time so that the facilitators, the PACT time facilitators are helping to set up the experience for parents so they know what they're getting into. They know how to actively engage, and through those parent time topics, they can really get those strategies and tools so that they have that kind of in, and they feel comfortable going and contacting their child in a new and different way. And one of the great things about having PACT time on site, whether it's in the classroom or in the community center, is that the facilitators are there to help model and support PACT time for the parents, to give them kind of, little suggestions or to sit down and help model the activity for the parents.
Sure, thanks.
Another thing that PACT time is not is just volunteering in the classroom. So we don't want parents to feel like the only reason that they're going into the classroom is to help cut out something for an art project that the parents are, or that the classroom is going to be doing later in the day, because that's not giving them that full opportunity to, get right in there with their child. We want them to be engaged and not just in the classroom, but as an active participant. So it's not just volunteering in the classroom, although volunteering is very important, and connecting the family with the classroom might increase the opportunities for other volunteer opportunities in the classroom once they feel that welcome and support. And then it's not just a teacher facilitated demonstration. So while the teacher is there to support and model, it's not the parent observing the teacher or facilitator working with their child. It's really jump in and have an interaction with your child, and then there's extra support just in case it's needed. So some of the purposes of PACT time is really to help parents think through their role as parents and reaffirm what they're already doing and give them a few more tools and strategies that they can be using to make those connections. We want to have parents think about how their children are learning and being able to engage in the classroom around different activities. It allows parents kind of to see what their child's doing. It gives them an opportunity to see what the other children in the classroom are doing, and it helps, bring awareness into what is developmentally appropriate for my child. If the child is in preschool, parents might be thinking, my child is 3 and they're in preschool. Why don't they know all their letters yet? But having the opportunity to go into the classroom and see how the classroom works, how the children are learning through play with authentic opportunities to engage with their environment, parents can see that the skill and drill that they might think their child needs isn't really the best way to go about helping to support those preschool children. And so it's allowing them kind of a new way to see how their child is growing and become aware of what is developmentally appropriate for the children.
And also, if I could add, a lot of times that's also the first experience that a parent may have in programs that are working with parents coming from other countries. That may be the first time they've ever seen what an American classroom looks like, what that style of teaching looks like, which can be exceptionally different. And I'll say, even for parents who went to school in the United States, preschool looks very different today, or kindergarten, any grade, from what it did 20 years ago. So that opportunity to see what it really looks like is eye-opening.
So as I mentioned before, PACT time really provides those opportunities for parents to practice strategies that they're learning in parent time. So for example, if in parent time they were talking about interactive reading strategies and using dialogic reading questions as they engage around a book, the parents could go into PACT time and really think about some of the questions and conversations they could be having around a book. And in a supportive environment, because there's always the facilitators around, they could be trying these out to see how they work and see, what are the strategies that work really well, and then talk through the things that didn't go well, because sometimes we know a parent goes in and a child might not want to engage or interact at that particular moment, and that's okay too, because the parents are following the child's lead through the activities that they're doing. So it's not a forced engagement. It's not a sit here by me, you have to do this. It's really thinking through how are the parents engaging and what can they be doing to facilitate deeper interactions with the child.
So Kathy, we had a question come in the question box. How do you encourage parents to participate in PACT time when parents, particularly low-income parents, have multiple demands on their time, such as work, various appointments, etc.?
That's a great question, because I think getting parents in the door is definitely the first step to having a successful PACT time experience. And I think we know that parents want the best for their children. And if we can make this about, the support that parents can provide to their child, and how increasing their skills as parents is really laying the foundation in early childhood, but that actually continues throughout the child's education. That parent engagement of connecting with the child, with the school, the classroom in a different way, I think that really can be the draw into the program for parents to get connected to those PACT time opportunities. And having PACT time set up and explain thoroughly, what it is and the why behind it, it definitely helps getting parents in also.
Thanks. And I think it's also important to think about PACT time. Certainly, as a classroom teacher, even a teacher could organize PACT time just with his or her students' parents and have that as kind of a standalone opportunity. But really, when we're looking at PACT time, that is generally brought to parents through engagement in an intensive family literacy or family learning program. So, part of helping parents to understand what that encompasses is really having very clear information from the very beginning. If someone is signing their family up for a family literacy or family learning program, helping them understand the full expectation of participating in parent time, in PACT time, in adult education, all of these things, so they know if that fits in their life or not, and that they're committing to that time. There are so many obstacles that certainly affect scheduling and affect some of the other contexts that we'll talk about in a moment of PACT time. But I think it is important to remember that generally this is in the context of a program that parents have signed up for as a family. We have a couple of other questions. We could go on and address them while we're stopped here. Please give advice on how to get teachers and administrators to allow PACT time to take place in the school instead of a center.
And that goes right along, I think, with the next question of, are teachers receptive to having parents in their classroom? So those are two great questions. And I think this is definitely something that has to be discussed on your school staff. And as Patricia mentioned, it's part of that, that bigger program of thinking about ways to engage parents through PACT time, through parent time in the family learning and family literacy models. Having the administrator of the school or the principal on board is needed for success of PACT time, parent time, and these parent engagement programs to work. And so getting them to understand the benefits of this also will help get the teachers on board to have them be more receptive for parents going into the classroom. And I think some of the key with teachers and having parents go into the classroom, a lot of it is how you set up the program. So the teachers are partners in this activity. We don't want it to be, parents are coming in at 10 o'clock, good luck, and then they're sent into the classroom, and the teacher may or may not understand what PACT time is or know what to do with the parents. We want it to be that supportive environment for the teachers too, so that there's an orientation for teachers, so they know what PACT time is. They know that this is a time where they can actually engage and get to know the parents in a different way. And so we want the teachers to be a full partner, and once they become that partner, they're going to be more kind of accepting of the parents coming in. Once they realize this isn't a time where parents are coming in to observe and criticize what they're doing, it's not that sort of experience. It's an experience where the parents are having that engaged opportunity with their child, and they're learning from the environment, from what the teacher and the class are doing.
I absolutely agree. And I think we have a suggestion that has come in from Rosemary about this. Teachers love data. Show them the statistics on how increased family engagement relates to student achievement. Many schools and districts put family involvement and engagement in their school improvement plan too, so this goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely agree. In fact, NCFL provides professional development about exactly that. So if it's something that that you are looking to increase in your area, that's certainly a contract professional development service that we provide. I do that work a lot, and that's one of my favorite things, because it does make such a difference for the children who are engaged and who get that opportunity. And I will say, as Kathy said, it takes that kind of upfront planning with teachers, but once teachers start to experience it, what I consistently hear back from our partners is that they then want the family literacy and family learning kids in their class. They want those children whose parents will be coming to do PACT time, even if they were kind of reluctant at the beginning, because they know that those are children whose parents are going to be engaged and going to be available, and they're going to have the opportunity to build that relationship with them. So so it definitely is not, it's not an overnight start kind of situation, but once the program is going, then you have teachers really saying, no, I want the kids who are going to have parents and family literacy. So so I think, yes, teachers are receptive to having parents in the classroom, but it all depends how it's set up and how well your program is run. And as I said, that's a lot of what NCFL does, because we do believe in this this opportunity for families and the impact that it has. So so that's a lot of the professional development that we provide. I think I had just a couple of other questions here. What if parents are distracted by major life issues, addictions, incarceration? Can others, such as pastors, siblings, extended family, meet the needs successfully? And I would say absolutely. There are many times that I'll meet older siblings, grandparents, who are really taking that parenting adult role, and they're fully engaged in a program with the child. And actually in that situation, it can be of special support for them, because that is a different relationship than the traditional parent-child relationship, and there are kind of unique obstacles and challenges. So we absolutely see that happen successfully in programs. I did also have someone ask about data about family engagement, and certainly NCFL has many resources on our website that that kind of dig into why that's important. The family engagement brief that you can find on our website, if you just use the search bar, that's how I always pull things like that up. If you go to familieslearning.org and just search family engagement brief, that and any of our other briefs are going to give you a good bit of information about the effectiveness of these types of engagement. So I think maybe I'll take one more question from the box and then we'll continue on. I had a question: how often does PACT time occur and the length of time? And I would say that's really it's variable by program. In Toyota Family Learning, for example, PACT time is at least 2 hours a week, but that's not necessarily 2 successive hours. In some programs it is. Some programs, the children are a little older, so they have that attention span that they can engage for 2 hours at one time and it works well. Some programs, the children are much younger and they do PACT time, 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. So it really depends. Kathy, do you want to speak to what you've seen?
Yep, in the FACE program, it's much more because we're working with preschool children. It's about a 30-minute to 45-minute long time in the classroom. So parents are engaging with their children, and then with a PACT time circle at the end to bring all the families together and wrap up the PACT time activity. So about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So it definitely depends on your program, how often you see the parents, and the structure that's set up. Is it a 4 or 5 day a week ongoing program, or is it a special PACT time experience once a week? And that will affect how often and how long the PACT time activity is.
So there are some more questions, but we'll come back to those at the end.
Okay, so let's look a little bit at what? Oh, yep. So one point we forgot here is model interaction with the children. So PACT time is that parent interaction time where parents can interact with their child and they're modeling the activity that they were talking about in parent time, or the strategy that they're working on with their child during that time. Okay, so let's think through the structure of PACT time. And this is kind of the general structure. Some programs do it slightly different than others, but the basic structure and parts of PACT time are the same. So it starts off with planning, and depending on how your PACT time is structured, whether it's an activity that's following a parent time session, or whether it's a activity that's done at home or in the community, your planning might be slightly different. But the planning is really helping parents think through the strategy that they're going to be focusing on in PACT time. So if the parent time was directly before that, they could be engaging the parents, thinking about ways that they might interact around that strategy with their children, and then brainstorm, if you're talking about interactive reading in the classroom, what are some questions that you might be able to ask as you're reading with your child that's going to engage them with conversation? And so giving those parents a few tools, a few questions, a few prompts, so that when they go into the classroom or into the activity, they have something to start off on to make that a successful activity. The preparation is really thinking through what is needed for this PACT time experience. So thinking through, are there extra materials? Is it an activity-based PACT time? Or is it really we're going to engage the learner in their own environment in the classroom, and we're just going to follow the child's lead in the activity using the materials in the classroom? The experience itself, that's the experience where the parents are actively engaging with their children. So they're following their children's lead. This is not a forced activity. We want the child to kind of be leading where the parents are going and how they're interacting with the activity. So this is part of the learning experience for parents, is to know how to engage their child and follow their lead. So we're not saying that if the child, is running out of the classroom, that that's a great opportunity for this experience and that parents shouldn't draw them back in. But what we're saying is that if the child doesn't want to play in the block area, even though the parent is very excited about playing in the block area, but the child goes over to the art area, we want the parent to follow the child over to the art area and start doing the art activity. So sometimes parents get so excited about whatever the activity is going on in the classroom or about different areas of the classroom because they didn't necessarily have the same experiences growing up. Sometimes parents get very excited and they sort of say, oh, look, let's go play over there in that area. And so we want parents to have that opportunity to explore the classroom also, but really focus on what their child is leading them to. So at the end of PACT time, as I mentioned in FACE programs, they have the PACT time circle, or they have a way to bring all the families together to have kind of a closing moment. This can kind of reiterate the focus of the PACT time for the parents, but it also can engage the whole family around stories or songs and kind of brings them together for that moment. And then there's the debrief. So this is one of the steps that sometimes is super easy for programs to forget about, the debriefing. But the debriefing is one of the things that makes PACT time so powerful, because it's the time where parents come back together and talk through their experience. So they're sharing their experience, they're sharing how it went with their child. Did their child respond? If not, maybe they can get some suggestions or different ways to interact from the parents. And so it's creating that community of parents, because as they share, they're learning more about each other, and it's creating a tighter knit community, but also it's allowing parents to kind of see through a lens of another family that PACT time doesn't always go smoothly, right? So children aren't always engaged and ready to engage with their parents. And so it's kind of talking through, what do you do when your child doesn't want to talk, even though you're communicating, you're asking different prompts, but in the moment your child is just going to sit there and play with the blocks and not interact. And so this debrief really sets up that time of how the parents can share this with other parents, and the parents can offer support and knowledge to the other parents. And then the transfer home activity, this can be transfer home to home, it can be connected back to the school and in the community. And this is really thinking through, how do you take that strategy or that focus from PACT time and make it go forward, so that it's not just a one and done activity of oh yeah, that was a great experience, I could read in a new way when I go to school. It's really thinking about, how can I take this strategy or this tool that I learned in parent time and PACT time and put it into a new environment, say in the home, or riding the bus home, or in different areas, environments, to engage the children in different ways.
Which is really closely related to when we're talking in adult education or even in children's education about transferability of skills. The transferability of parenting skills is the same type of construct as transferring academic skills. So when we, when we're talking to our students, no matter the age, about, okay, today we learned how to, to measure using a ruler with something that's kind of short, but tomorrow you might need to measure something that requires a tape measure. It's still the same skill. It's still the same concept. They're simply doing it in a different context, maybe with a different tool. As Kathy said, it's the same idea. If you're learning to have a conversation with your child in the classroom, asking open-ended questions is something you can certainly still do when you're reading a book with them at home.
Okay, so some of the benefits of PACT time in the classroom. We talked a little bit about how important it is to engage with the classroom teacher and make it a positive experience. But for the parents, one of the great experiences that this PACT time in the classroom can help connect them with what's going on in their child's classroom. So to get a better lens, it's not just the homework that's coming home at the end of the day is a glimpse into what the child's doing at school. It's giving them an opportunity to see, what's being taught at school. How is it being taught? How is it different from when the parents were growing up and their experience in the educational setting? They can see how their children are interacting with other children in the classroom and interacting with the teacher. And so giving them that opportunity to go into the classroom definitely creates stronger bonds between the parent and the school. And this helps support the child's learning because the parent is getting to know the teacher at a different level. So instead of a parent who might be, kind of intimidated by the educational setting, depending on their experience growing up in the school setting, they will now have a deeper connection with the teacher because they're going in every day or once a week into the classroom and they're developing that relationship. So when, they have questions or concerns that come up, parents will have that deeper relationship and then thereby feel more comfortable, hopefully, working with that teacher to promote the success of their child. And then see how their child is doing. Are there concerns? Quick information about the child's progress. This is time when parents can just, really kind of have that. It's not a real conversation with the teacher, but if there's a question or concern that has come up, this is that moment where small conversations could happen to really deepen that connection and relationship. And then for the teachers in the classroom, making sure that they're prepared ahead of time before parents came in. Like I said before, we don't want teachers to feel that this is something that's imposed on them. We want them to realize what a benefit and opportunity it is for them to create these opportunities for parents to come into their classroom. So there's a little bit of preparation. We want to make sure that, if parents are coming in, that the students know that the parents are coming in and that they're ready. They have an idea of what's going to happen throughout that time at PACT time, and then that the parents will be leaving. It's not the end of the day, and in many cases, and the students are going to continue on in the classroom even after PACT time is done. We want parents to think ahead about, or we want teachers to help think ahead about how to make the parents welcome into the classroom. So no matter what's going on in the classroom, it doesn't have to be a stop everything and greet the parents as they come in, but parents definitely can feel, is this a welcoming space? Is this something that the teachers aren't really excited about? And even glancing up and the smile and the welcome from the teacher is going to make a big difference to how the parents are engaging with their children, because if they feel that they're not welcome in the classroom, they might be hesitant to really have those deeper interactions with their children. And then parents follow the daily routine. So if parents are going into the classroom. This isn't something where the teacher has to drop everything, drop the normal routine. This is an idea where they're following the regular routine and engaging around what's going on already in the classroom. And then parents can also be, learning alongside their children and thinking about what they can do together to practice the skills. So this allows parents to kind of see, what is my child doing in math? And, oh, I could do this at home with a different, material, or we could have conversations about, one-to-one correspondence for preschoolers and think about what they could be doing at home to support that skill.
So we have shared a lot about classroom PACT time because really that is traditionally where PACT time has happened. And it is, that's certainly the most intensive approach to PACT time, is having parents come into the classroom, or parenting adults come into the classroom and learn alongside their child in that kind of everyday context. However, I opened the webinar by talking a little bit about our family learning model, the idea behind which is to take family literacy beyond classroom walls. So at NCFL, we understand that not every family has the capacity to be in a full-time intensive family literacy program. Family learning programs have given an opportunity really for partners as well as for us to expand our understanding and approach to PACT time. So school-based PACT time is absolutely happening in very many places, including in some of our family learning programs that really do the entire family literacy model plus family service learning and kind of that increased technology and social capital development that I did not go into a lot here. But there are also programs that are engaging in center-based PACT time, for example. Center-based PACT time for many of you may sound like school-based PACT time just by the title, and it can be. But it also could be, the picture that you see here is in a community center. And I chose this picture because you can see the multitude of families all engaging with their family unit at the same time that they're engaging between and among families. And this has been a really exciting thing to see really starting to take off more. The idea behind a center-based PACT time like this, or even some other examples that we've seen where groups may split out into kind of smaller groups of families, but still be at the center. The idea is that it is a common time, it's a scheduled time, so that it does become a deliberate part of the family's routine, but also families still have the support of a facilitator during PACT time. That is very important as part of really ensuring that the parents are comfortable to use the skills that they're learning. It's just like any skill that you learn. You can feel like you're doing something really well, but without someone to kind of help make sure that that new area that you're venturing into is going well, sometimes it's not as easy to keep it up, but it's also not as easy to ensure you're doing the new strategy, or that you're using that new information with fidelity, unless someone is really there to kind of help guide and support you. So some things that are important to think about with center-based PACT time, in some instances, that may happen still where it's a closer age range. Particularly, I've seen that with programs that work with children in preschool. Even if it's not happening in the classroom, a center-based PACT time with children that are all at that age, sometimes that will happen. This particular program that you see here actually has early release on Fridays. So parents who have older children still would not have those older children with them to come to a center-based group PACT time on Fridays, because the preschool children are out of school, but the older children are not. So that would create a targeted focused child age range. But generally, that is not what we see happening. Usually what we see is a multiple age range of children, which can create a lot of excitement and can create kind of some challenges. Generally, for that type of setup, you will tend to see programs need more directed activities. So Kathy talked about following the child's lead, which is a very important part of PACT time. In a center-based larger group setting, that may look more like kind of open-ended maker activity type opportunities, opportunities for families to engage around a particular topic or a particular challenge. This is why family service learning has worked so well in this type of environment, because we have a lot of families working together toward one particular challenge and a solution to that particular challenge. So there's a lot of opportunity for them to work together as families, but also as individual families for kind of one part of a solution, one part of a project. Sometimes the activities are even more directed than that, though, so that, families may all together in a group read a book or watch a short video and then have something to do based on that, so that there's a direction for the activity, but parents are pulling in strategies that they're learning in parent time to support that activity. You can probably see from the picture here, there is a lot of opportunity with multiple families engaging together to build community among those families. And that is something that is so important in the programs, that parents are building connections and relationships with each other and their families as well. You can probably imagine that does lead to some staffing considerations, such as needing more people on site. In many programs where full families are engaging, having a situation where 20 families are enrolled could easily yield 100, 120 participants on site at any time. So if you think about PACT time in that kind of situation, I would imagine it's easy to see that there may be more staff needed, and staff that have comfort levels with different age ranges of children, also different different capacities as far as engaging those adults as well. And there sometimes are logistical concerns. As I said, some programs will do this type of setup that you see here, where there are multiple families in one room. We have also seen a really unique situation where the program site had multiple small rooms, so that there was a kind of communal gathering space, but then each family had a family room that they could go to for PACT time. So there could be whole group PACT time and then individual family PACT time, but happening on site at the center. I have a question here. Can you provide an example on the approach a facilitator may use when guiding families in instances where they may not be following a positive approach? So, so certainly a lot of times in those types of situations, the families themselves actually, this is one benefit of center-based PACT time. With multiple families engaging, families actually will see each other modeling interaction behaviors that a lot of times that's a stronger support than even a facilitator kind of intervening and saying, you might consider this instead. But I have seen certainly facilitators just circulating during pack time. You're really circulating the same way you do in class. And so as a facilitator is circulating through the parents, I've seen one stop and say, because the parent was a little bit frustrated and kept trying to kind of get her daughter to read the book, and the daughter wasn't really interested. And she said, you know, remember, she has kind of a mind of her own. She's a little strong-willed. She may want to do something else, and that's okay, Mom. Remember, it's okay to follow her lead. So it's just, in that instance, I think a lot of it is having a positive relationship already with the parent, where it's okay to not stop and say, no, you're doing that wrong, but instead to say, you know, it's great that you're reading together. If she wants to do this instead, that's okay. Go follow her lead. So I think a lot of it is very relational.
And I think the other, one of the benefits of having PACT time right alongside a parent time session is that you can take some of those observations and those challenges that you see parents having, and instead of calling them out in the moment, because that's not going to help you increase your relationship with them, you're making it a natural topic that comes up in parent time. And so you can kind of talk through some of those experiences so that parents are learning different strategies that they can use in the interactions with their children.
Absolutely. We have a couple of other things that I want to talk about as far as context for PACT time. One of those is community-oriented PACT time. So even beyond having kind of this center-based approach, things like family service learning, family field trips, and opportunities to interact with people at different resources in the community can be really great ways for families to interact with each other still, to have those quality conversations and opportunities to learn together, but in different ways. Through family service learning, they're doing that through a project. They're addressing concerns in their community. They may go together somewhere to collect materials for a project, to do action of actually cleaning up a beach or a street, or even, you know, going to City Hall to ask for permission to be able to do different activities like that. Field trips have been, to address one of the questions earlier about getting people kind of interested in doing PACT time, field trips have been a great way that many programs have been able to do this and kind of build additional excitement. Opportunities for families to engage together in places and ways that they may not normally get to really can be exciting and a draw. Additionally, PACT time at home has been kind of on the increase. And while we don't necessarily typically recommend to a program to set up PACT time at home from the outset with families, that is absolutely a goal of any successful program, that by the time a family completes programming and is kind of becoming more confident as a family unit, PACT time should be happening at home as well, because that is how we create that sustainability of families actually learning together and knowing that they're going to continue that practice. When a family is no longer coming to your school, your center, your library, you want to know that they have this set up at home. And so that's really a critical part of the success of a program. So that includes making sure that families set up a routine for learning together at home, for PACT time at home, helping to give them ideas for support. If they're just starting out doing PACT time at home, families might need a stronger guidance to set them up. In the context of a program that is receiving funding from whatever source, it's certainly important to think about how to document what's happening at home for PACT time. On site, it's very easy to know and to capture what's happening, the amount of time, when it is happening, but if you have funding from, as I said, whatever entity for programming, it's generally going to be very important that you have documentation and a system set up for that. And then also a schedule for debriefing. Typically, if PACT time is happening at home, the debriefing is happening in the next parent time. But it is of critical importance to ensure that that's included. As Kathy said, that often is the part that's easy to leave out. So, so certainly you want to think about that and make sure that it's a consistent part of the routine. There are just a couple of lessons learned that I want to share here. Kathy's already kind of mentioned the first one. Modeling the strategies is so important. Parents are much more willing to try something out if they have seen it happen, and especially if they've seen it happen with some feedback. A lot of times programs will use role playing in parent time to help parents ensure that they really feel comfortable in that role of using the new strategy. Tell parents the why. Why is it important that they do this with their child? Why do they need to read with their child every day? Why do they need to ask questions? Again, that's going to make them more likely to engage with their child around that topic. And also, even though PACT time is not observation in the classroom, there can be opportunities added to observe, especially maybe even in a different teacher's classroom, to understand the full context better. There are many other lessons that we have learned, but as we took so many questions throughout, I don't want to keep people on extra if they intended to head out at 11. I do want to just mention quickly, if you are intrigued about PACT time and its effects, there are always many opportunities to learn more about PACT time and what's going on around the country at our annual conference. This year we will be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and the early bird registration is open right now. So if you are interested in joining us in Fort Lauderdale, I encourage you to check that out at conference.familieslearning.org. And with that, this is Kathy and my contact information. You are more than welcome to reach out to us with questions. I'm going to stop the recording, but if you have asked a question, I will move through those. We will move through those fairly quickly here. But well, actually, I guess we don't have to stop the recording for that. If people are watching the webinar later, they might want to know the answers to your questions also. But for those who joined and have other places to be, absolutely, we understand, and we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. Happy holidays, and have a great weekend. So we'll take a look through some of the questions. I apologize, we didn't anticipate quite this many questions for today. So I think, how do programs determine effectiveness of the program? Some programs require book logs, public library use, immunization records, etc. Sometimes these requirements are a barrier to the parent participation. That's absolutely right. Sometimes those things can be a barrier. One particular barrier, at least as far as, I think I'm seeing maybe kind of two directions there. As far as entry into the program for parents, sometimes there are barriers as far as background checks, health screenings, things like that. Some programs will help with the costs of those if that's the prohibiting factor, and some programs will meet off-site. Again, there was the question earlier about parents who are incarcerated. Sometimes there are parents who have previously been incarcerated and can't go into the school during the school day. Sometimes those programs will meet off-site at a library, a church, somewhere in the community. As far as the effectiveness of the program part, many programs will use an evaluation system, as well as school-based programs tend to use child outcomes, as well as adult child outcomes in the form of test scores and attendance rates. We see incredible increases in attendance rates of children who've been through family literacy programs. But adult test outcomes are also an effectiveness measure, as well as adult job placement. A lot of times adults come into the programs, when we're working to eradicate poverty, a lot of times that includes helping those parents get jobs, because that's, money is a big part of that. And sometimes that's a measure of effectiveness as well. How many parents have gotten jobs or built skills to get jobs. And I think that kind of fits with assessments that the teachers use. That is typically very dependent on the state tests that are used in the area. Another question, our PACT time involves children who are ages 6 months old to 3 years old. Our PACT time is 45 minutes long. As the younger end of this group is so limited as to activities they can actively participate in, do you have any suggestions as how to include the babies and young toddlers?
I think many times, especially for the very young children, that's where, with your parent time topics, you can focus in on how important it is to engage with the children right from birth, with conversations and the oral language that can be developing even without the response, but that ongoing kind of talk that parents can have as they're changing the child's diaper, as they're getting the bottle ready, or as they go through their daily routine. All of that language exposure that the children can be exposed to, even though they can't formally respond back. Also, the importance of reading to your child right from birth. And so there's been studies that during pregnancy, parents have read to their child throughout the pregnancy, and when they hear the same cadence and rhythm of that story, the child reacts differently after being born. And so we know that it's so important to kind of think through all the things that can be done right from day one all the way through.
And I think that includes also, singing songs, helping to kind of get the child moving around and building coordination. There are lots of ways that parents and children can engage each other through kind of serve and return type, even just facial expressions and things like that back and forth with each other.
And you could also ask yourself, is 45 minutes, is it too long for the very young children? And so it's, reflecting on who are the families being served in your program and having that flexibility to know, maybe it's only 30 minutes of parent-child interactive time with the youngest of the children.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Sometimes we do have to kind of make small changes to make programming more effective. I also see in our program, we make sure that the teachers know that we prepare the parents before they go to the classrooms. We talk about the classroom environment, confidentiality norms, as well as do's and don'ts while going into their child's classroom. And that's all very important to do. And thank you, Norma, for sharing that you do that and that you tell the teachers ahead of time. That is such an important part of addressing that question that someone asked earlier about, our teachers are receptive to this. The more that they know that parents know what to expect, what's okay, what's not okay to do in the classroom, the more on board they typically tend to be. Oh, this is a great question. Do you have PACT time intensive strategies to take advantage of a lot of free time during spring break, summer, and Christmas? And we do have not only the fact that parents really are learning strategies in parent time, and generally right now, I guarantee many of you are giving special emphasis in parent time, saying, okay, holiday break is coming up, your children are going to be home. How are you going to use the things we've learned in parent time with them? So not only is there that emphasis, but NCFL has actually created a resource specifically for those long periods of time when kids are out of school. That is called Camp Wonderopolis. If you're familiar with our Wonderopolis, where you receive a free Wonder of the Day every day, camp is built out of that resource and is structured to be 6 weeks worth of informational text and kind of lessons that children can engage in, or parents and children together can engage in. Those lessons are organized in 6 tracks, 6 different topics, and each of those tracks also includes a reading list as well as a maker activity that parents and children can absolutely engage in to continue learning together at home. There are kind of questions there, things to think about. What would happen if we did this differently, or if we did this differently? So if you haven't checked out Camp Wonderopolis before, we absolutely encourage you to do that to help support those PACT time opportunities at home over longer stretches of time. And that's at camp.wonderopolis.org. There are also many other resources at familieslearning.org. For the sake of time, I'm not going to take you out to do a website tour, but maybe that will be a future webinar topic. You never know. But we do have many resources. There's a family learning calendar that has 30 days worth of kind of sparks for PACT time at home. So that's certainly a helpful support for the upcoming holiday as well. And if you're not sure where to find that on our website, my email address is still up on the screen right now. You're welcome to email me, and I can send you links to any of those resources. In case if this asker watches the recording later, no, actually we did already answer that. Never mind, I apologize. Do you have a list of example teaching and learning strategies and techniques that are successful for PACT time? For example, questioning methods. Questioning methods would certainly be something that we would encourage. We do have some lesson plans that that programs use to introduce different topics for parent time. If you're interested in more information about different topics, different strategies, specific ones, Kathy and I both are happy to share those with you. We don't have necessarily a formal list, because often the strategies and techniques that work well for one group of parents may not be what other groups need. But as a general rule, there are kind of overarching things like asking questions, engaging with the child, telling stories, as Kathy mentioned, working on oral language development. Those are all things that are kind of critical across the board. We had another comment. It seems like a group can create positive peer pressure for parents and children to reduce fear of failure for both. Accurate? Yes, that's absolutely accurate. We see that a lot. As I said, there's a lot of social capital that gets built among the families, where they start to build connections. They feel more comfortable with each other. They engage more readily with each other, and they provide support over time. You know, we even see, I've been in class before where I've seen one mom ask another one to go grocery shopping with her and kind of help figure out, the one mom's very good at using coupons and saving money and finding things that are going to be healthy for her family at the same time. And so their families went off grocery shopping together. So there's a lot of in the center opportunity as well as extensions beyond that. There have been a couple of requests for video clips. There are lots of short video clips on our Vimeo and YouTube channels. You can find National Center for Families Learning on both. And I would certainly encourage you to take a look there. If there's something specific you're looking for, we always love to have ideas of what would be helpful to the field. So if there's a specific type of video clip that you're looking for, that would be great help to us. Can you elaborate on activity ideas for PACT time at home? Yes, one of the most common ones that comes up is cooking. We see lots of families that will engage in cooking as a way not only to practice, reading recipes, measuring, kind of taking care of the invention that happens as part of cooking, but also even to pass on what they have experienced as a family cooking for a long time, as far as ethnic recipes, part of their cultural background. Also, we see families engage in lots of different activities that support family service learning, so that they might be kind of following a tutorial to learn how to knit blankets or scarves, for example, is one that I've seen. So they're learning to follow directions together and then actually creating a product out of that. And as I said, family service learning really hits a lot of that, as well as, let's see, you also asked to provide examples of PACT time at home for middle school and high school kids. And those opportunities really, really resonate, the family service learning kind of smaller tasks. I've also talked with parents who get really nervous about doing PACT time with middle and high school kids because they view it as they need to do specific activities. And we've talked some about following the child's lead. And so one idea is also, if your child's into video games or movies, do those activities together and then build around that the opportunity to discuss and to connect to other things. So it doesn't always have to be explicitly around academics. Look for things that the child is interested in and ways to engage them around that. And that social emotional connection around their work really and their interest really can be helpful. And one of my colleagues down the hall actually just said also, reviewing money and budgeting, such as at the mall or grocery store, that's also a great way to hit middle school and high school children's interests. And thank you, Amanda, for sharing that. That's definitely a great way to engage those children around what is of interest to them and of particular currency generally. And I made a pun, didn't even expect to. So, so let's see. It looks like we have a question about Wonderopolis. Wonderopolis really is going to target more your upper elementary into lower middle school. So not preschool age. We do have some materials from the past that are similar to Wonderopolis, but they're offline materials for preschool. If you wanted to reach out to me, Rosemary, we could certainly share some ideas for that. I think that is everything except for just asking about copies of the PowerPoint. If you would like a PDF of the PowerPoint, you're more than welcome to reach out. You'll all receive the recording of this webinar in a follow-up email from us. So I think that is all of the questions. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you everyone who stuck around for the full question and answer there. Thank you, and have a great holiday season and excellent breaks, hopefully from work. And I hope to see you back here in January for a webinar on aligning programming to standards.
Thank you, and have a happy holiday.